Hey everyone, how's it going today? I hope you're all doing very well, and I'm happy to be back doing another video about the Mastermind GT. And I'm excited because this week is the first time we're going to actually have a look at another piece of outboard gear and see how we can control it with the GT. And the first device we're going to learn how to interface with is a pedal looper. So that way we can have full control of the analog or digital pedals we want to use with different loops and channels by MIDI control from a Mastermind. Let's get started by going over what a looper is. Now, not to be confused with a device that allows you to loop recordings of perhaps your guitar playing or other performances, a pedal looper specifically is a device that includes multiple channels that allow you to connect pedals of your choosing into each channel, and you may bypass and engage accordingly to what you need at any point during a performance. Certain loopers come with and without MIDI capability, but the one we'll be specifically working with today does have MIDI capability, which allows for external control from a MIDI device, such as the very Mastermind that we're working with. My looper of choice is the Patchmate Loop 8 right here, and this is by Rocktron. Good company, they make some very great devices, and they've been in the MIDI game for a long time. Let's talk about the connections that we need to make with our devices in order to get a pedal looper to work in a MIDI rig. Now, the way the system works here is that we're using the Mastermind GT to send commands to another device. So what we do is we grab a 5-pin MIDI cable, and we're going to be connecting from the MIDI out jack of the GT, and then we're going to plug into the MIDI in of the pedal looper of your choice. So now that we're all connected, let's go ahead and actually initialize our pedal looper to work with our Mastermind. Here's our GT22. Let's get started by pressing the 2 black buttons to open up our startup menu. So the first thing that we need to do in order for the Mastermind to send any commands to a pedal looper is adding it in as a device. Let's go ahead and select Edit Devices. I already have something set up here now, but I'm going to go ahead and hit an empty slot to give you a full rundown. So we hit Type, and now a little trick for you. I do not have a pedal looper that is owned by any of these preset brands. Rocktron is not supported by RJM, and that's totally okay. So in order to get around that, there's 2 things that you could do. One, you could set up your looper as a PC or CC device, and from there you can just optimize how you want certain CC or PC commands to run. However, there's a much easier thing that we can do to save a lot of time. So I was once advised to actually have this behave like RJM's effect gizmo. So let's go ahead and hit RJM Music, and let's have Effect Gizmo as our device. Now, of course, I don't have Effect Gizmo, I have a Rocktron looper. However, because of the way that Effect Gizmo is set up as a MIDI device, it works very, very closely with how the Patchmate Loop 8 works. So the first thing that we should take a look at is our MIDI channel. I'm gonna go ahead and set it to MIDI channel 2. The next thing we should do is go back to our pedal looper device and select what MIDI channel we need. Now, how do we do that? Well, it all depends which device you're working with. If you go ahead and look in the owner's manual of your device, it'll explain exactly how to do that. So once we do that, and we'll set it to MIDI channel 2, we will be able to successfully send and receive commands back and forth from the GT to our looper. Specifically for the Patchmate Loop 8, setting up a MIDI channel is very simple. All we have to do is press and hold the Store button, and that'll bring us into the MIDI configuration menu. And what you should be seeing is that the lights will be blinking, and that'll be indicating which channel is set right now for MIDI. just go ahead and select the button that corresponds with which channel that you'd like to set up. And in this case, we're going to go with channel number 2. Once you're finished with selecting what MIDI channel you need, just go ahead and hit the store button again, and you are back into its normal mode, and we're good to go. So at this point, we now have a complete connection between the Mastermind GT and our loopers, so we may now send commands for which loops we'd like to work with. Okay, so we're in the GT Edit app. Let's go and take a look. The first thing we'll go ahead and do is check out the Devices tab, and we're going to see that we have our looper set up as device number 2, Effect Gizmo, and as you can see, all the information and settings here reflect exactly what we saw on the device. Nothing is different, no reason it should be. I just want you to see how it looks here on the Edit app. We're going to go ahead and have a look at the Buttons tab, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown of what you're looking at. The green buttons are for Axe FX 3 presets, and the blue row are for the Axe FX 3 scenes. Now, as far as which buttons I use to actually control loops in my pedal looper, I do my best to color code the buttons to reflect what color the physical pedal is. So in this case, we have 3 buttons that are red. Those are for my whammy pedal. And then for the MXR Phase 90, the closest I can get to is yellow. We don't have an orange color in the Mastermind, but that's totally okay. And then I also have what might be a little weird to some of you, a Chaos pad connected to my pedal looper, which is a DJ effects processor. I'm a really big fan of the band Muse. Matt Bellamy has guitars with MIDI screens on them, and he's known for controlling a device such as a Chaos pad in his playing, so that's something I like to do too. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't tried it, I recommend it. The only other thing that I would have here is a loop for the ZVEX Fuzz Factory. Unfortunately, I don't have that set up as a button right now because I haven't really been playing it live. I've been doing a lot of tone testing, so we'll get that back in soon. Anyway, let's go over to a different page and let's actually start a whole button from scratch. So we have a blank space here. We're going to double click, and the first thing we're going to look at is the button type. We want it to be an instant access button. An instant action button is a very general type of button that allows us to set different settings and actions to control a lot of on-off functions. So if we're looking to use a looper, definitely want to have an IA button. Now let's say that we want to have my ZVEX Fuzz Factory pedal back in the game. Let's go ahead and add it. We're going to call it ZVEX Fuzz. Alright, nice. Now as far as colors go, you want to start with the off color because that's what you're going to see it about 95% of the time. So in this case, I guess, let's give it agua. Why not? And for the on color, I usually have that agua for anything I work with anyway. You'll be able to tell a difference. It'll actually highlight when you press the button in the on position. What we want to do now is actually really set this button up so that it knows what function it's actually performing. And in order to do that, we're going to go zoom on over to the action center right here. So what we'll do is we're first just going to remove this action by highlighting it and clicking remove action. Now let's go ahead and start a whole new action. So our action type is the CC toggle. That is what will initiate the trigger for the on and off of this button. And the device, we're going to select Effect Gizmo. Now the CC number is going to represent which loop we're working with. Now in this case, for any device that you have, again, I would go ahead and refer to the owner's manual that you have, because it's usually always going to have some kind of implementation chart, or it'll tell you which loops will be activated by which numbers. However, in my case, we're going to be using CC number 82, because that's the one that's designated for the loop number we need. Off value can stay at 0, on value can stay maxed out at 127, and then that's it. We're good to go. At this point, we can now go ahead and head on over to our GT, and we can select this button to now open the channel loop and we'll be able to have a nice ZVEX Fuzz Factory tone. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is that your pedals need to be in the on position at all times. So when you're setting up your looper and your rig, just make sure that all of your pedals are engaged, and you'll be good to go once you select your loops with the Mastermind. Now, to show you a little extra trick real quick, you may have noticed that I had to go all the way over to page 3 in order to have room for another loop. Now, of course, this is just a video tutorial. In my real rig, I'm going to have things set up a little differently, but for the sake of showing you just a little cool trick here, let's say that indeed we are on page 3, but maybe I want to be back at the first page immediately and not waste time having to do more tap dancing just to get there. What we can do is we can go back to the button and we'll add another action. And this time when we go to action type, we're going to select system, designating that we want to do something within the system of the GT. So subtype is already selected for what I want. We want it to go to another page, and then the next field down is the page number. So we're going to go ahead and put in page number 1. And then finally what we'll do is, so that now that everything truly works, we'll go ahead and select transfer, and we're going to click write changes to device. Well, that pretty much covers everything for this. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and that you learned a little something about pedal loopers and MIDI control. Have a nice day, guys. Stay well, and I'll see you next week.